Hi guys, my name is Borodante, and welcome back to Overpaint, which means I go through my Patreon page and check out all the submissions that you guys sent to me during January, trying to give you some advice and maybe fix something. First patient is Tabitha Berry. Hi Tabitha, that sounds pretty cool. Hi Boro, Happy New Year. Thanks, you too. It's been great so far here in Ukraine. Long time watcher, first time poster here. Welcome. So what I've got for you is a fan art of the character Molly Mock from the Dungeons & Dragons streaming series Critical Role. I've also got a link to a picture I used as a reference for the character's design, and you mentioned in the comment below that the link is dead. I would like to just look them up then. Alright. Wow, they're fancy. I wonder if the reference was like really close to, you know, the pose and the light. Maybe I'm looking at it right now and just not seeing. But yeah, I definitely got the gist. Your version is a bit more toned down and serious, I gotta say. I've generally got a bad habit of doing pretty safe paintings, not doing anywhere enough contrast, only single light sources, etc. Honestly, nothing wrong with that. I mean, contrast is the kind of thing we can definitely fix, but single light sources, you actually have to, and that's about the pretty good amount, actually. So I tried to push myself a little out of my comfort zone with this one. Yeah, that's what I meant. I should have finished reading first. There are a couple of things I'm not happy with. Things like the hair, fur, and cape, I think I mostly just need more practice with. Same with the bits of metal. I did as well as I did with them thanks to your videos. Aw, nice, thank you. But one thing I've never been good at is using variations in color and contrast to make the skin more lifelike. I mean, it's violet. We'll see what I can do. If you have any advice in that regard and anything else you can see that needs improvement, that would be great. Thanks, Tabitha. Great, let's see how we can improve this image and make it a bit more confident and expressive, which is apparently the thing that Tabitha is going for. This video has a sponsor, WingFox, and they have a new course called Level Up Your Digital Painting Skills 2.0, New Upgrade. You guys may remember I was promoting the first version, but it was called Beginner to Advanced, and this is New Upgrade, and there's a lot of just beautiful art styles in here, and incredible application of different ways of working with concept art, which is what I really like about this course. It's like very illustrative. There's a lot of working with materials is gonna be going like this, you know, working with creative outline. You will have this kind of artwork. Like, this is a really high profile, amazing looking course that's covering all the fundamentals and how they can really go to the top, which is really cool. Like, this is an impressive looking course. Fishman definitely improved his game so much in terms of making awesome courses. This course is in the early birds fundraising stage right now, meaning it will be releasing in over 2 months. But because of that, you're getting the full access to the course when it starts coming out for only $25. So yeah, if you guys are interested in the course and you want to support its translation and get a big discount for the full access, the affiliate link to the course is always in the video description. Now back to Overpaint. One thing that I usually start fixing this kind of artwork from, and this will probably be no exception, is dynamic range. By that I mean we should probably make the image just brighter. So this is the bright point. I obviously can bring it like this and we're not gonna lose a single detail. You can see the pixels, even though barely present, they end here. So really I could bring it in like this. It's probably just glowing eyes that would slightly lose detail, but that's no problem as well. But this may be a bit too bright, if you ask me. Let's just look at what we see and what we like. This is definitely looking like there's something wrong with my monitor, which is always a possibility, but the histogram doesn't lie. I feel like going like this is definitely appropriate. We don't have to go like literally like this, so we use the whole dynamic range, you know, the brightest part on the character should be the brightest in the image. No, if we have a story about nighttime or dungeon, it should be a bit darker. but we should still see what's going on in its full glory. So giving it a little bit of a breather is a good idea in terms of not pushing it too bright, but we still definitely need to see things. I'm gonna make it a bit like bright like this, but then we'll tone down certain areas that should be in the dark. That's my plan for now. So this is the kind of change we're making here. Let's have a look at the lighting. I can see you're doing this thing with the lighting sandwich that I've been talking about a few times lately, which is really awesome. This is a great way to do it. One thing I can see is that, like, you could use approaching the lighting a bit more three-dimensionally in regards of, yeah, this light is like on this side, so blue light is on, or white light is on this side, and the red light is on this side. But it's not just left and right, it's in 3 dimensions, as well as our character's shoulders and the face. And if the face is plane is like this, I would say there's also like this plane of the shoulder, maybe like this, if we give it like the widest possible way. I would say that like these parts should already be really dark, and it's really important. As well as in here, we can go a lot darker and be not afraid of doing that. The point of it is that this is like real geometry, and while the light is soft, there's still no way to deny that, you know, this is the back of the character, the back. And the light is obviously in the front where the face is, and we even have like a little bit of a rim lighting here going on, so that means it's like more on the far right, far left side here. So there's just no point in bleeding the light onto the character's back. If anything, we could bring some red in here. It would totally make sense. Maybe a little bit, you know, it's still that side. That's at least the way I see it. Also, I'm going a bit darker at the bottom, just to make things look a bit more framed and awesome. Now, in terms of the lighting on the face, let's repeat the same thing, the way I showed it before. So I'm gonna lay a pretty sharp and strong base. Let's say it's all really dark here. And yeah, as you can see, well, it still looks pretty harsh, but I brought up your brightness overall of the image, and now we can see a lot of dull, like washed out shadows in many places. Even when it's in the light, if there's a shadow, it should be a shadow, right? And it looks washed out. And it wasn't noticeable when everything was overall dark. This is literally the strategy here. Make the brightness stronger, but make sure the dark shadows remain dark, and that's how you get beautiful striking lighting. You already have a good setup for the high contrast striking lighting, because this is the lighting sandwich. It's, you know, it has a terminator, it's colorful lights and dark background, it's all like cool. But now you gotta make sure there's actual contrast going on that is supposed to be there, and for that there should be the certain amount of brightness. And when I'm doing this, when I'm making things brighter and like of higher contrast, let me switch to something soft to not waste my time. This way we get something you really probably will be happy to have, which is all the base we need to render interesting, beautiful, alive skin. Because we have this strong contrast, this is exactly where you can easily show all the translucency. Like, where do you put translucency in here? It's all just soft gradient, like, I don't know. It's violet already, it's hard to work with that, but now we have no contrast. In here, this is where I grab the color, I make it a bit brighter, more saturated, probably closer to like purple or whatever, maybe even stronger. And I'll just add a little bit of that stuff exactly on the edges between light and shadow, because that's where all the fun happens, between light and shadow. That's where all the translucency can happen. What's important, I actually wanted once make a video about this point, that when you make a beautiful effect, the kind of effect that feels unreachable usually, you know, to like a beginner artist or something, like for instance, beautiful skin translucency or something like that. The key to that is, number one, you need to introduce a lot of contrast in lighting, and second, it should be as tiny as it's strong. Meaning the stronger the effect, the tinier the radius should be. I remember very clearly, let me actually try and find an image. I feel like I'll be able to find it somewhat fast. Yeah, I guess this is a good example. I believe this is Wei Feng. Yeah, that's Wei Feng. This is it. If you look at the face overall in bigger brushstroke, it's just dull and also like blue-violet. It's really close actually, right? But if we zoom in, look at that really saturated blue on the edge around the shadow between light and dark. In here, like some kind of sparkles of translucency. You don't have to think about it, it just looks like magic. Same thing in here, you see just little drops of super saturated color, not covering the whole thing, only little drops, just teasing you a little bit. But generally, the skin is super pale, he's like a zombie. But with these little, additions, that's where all the fun happens, and Wei Feng actually does that a lot. In here, pale white skin, but where do we see the translucency? Barely somewhere, a little bit in the tiniest little corners of shadows, somewhere, just hints, a little bit, It's not like there's no orange color in here as it goes, like brighter, more yellow, darker, more red, the basic idea. This is actually a pretty cool way to go about it. Like, you should just add it a tiny little bit. But where exactly in these little tiny shadows? Well, now my fixes look horrible after Wei Feng's artwork. That was a stupid idea. Yeah, one thing I'm seeing here that I would probably like to make the nose a bit brighter to introduce difference in values. The forehead and the nose, they face upwards a bit more. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff we're getting. It's really mysterious. And yet another example of something that happens a lot in my overpaints is that a dark story shouldn't actually be a dark image. In terms of like, you can go really bright. It's just about knowing where to keep things actually dark. Like, shadows should stay dark, and there should be a certain amount of them. And contrary to a daytime story, there's no ambient lighting that would light up details in this shadow part. There's complete blackness I'm drawing now. And that's the only difference that makes a nighttime story. It's just that these details right now that I'm removing, I wouldn't be able to remove if it would be a daytime story, because then there would be like skylight in there or some kind of reflected light. I'm getting too comfortable with this super soft brush. Yeah, all this not red color of lighting on that side, it makes little sense. So I'm gonna just go ahead and remove it, and it should be only red on that side, and whatever, you have some kind of metallic details there. And yeah, maybe I'll bring back a little bit of detail in here. So yeah, let's go back to these translucency effects and everything. I think this is the fun thing to talk about. So I'll make the nose actually translucent all the way to the other side, And as we just saw with Wei Feng's example there, maybe it's a good idea to actually go more translucent exactly inside of the nostril or something. Although we don't really have an angle for that. Yeah, not really. But yeah, let's just go with the translucent nose a little bit. And yeah, that's that interesting thing. I'm not sure how, physically based it is, but as we just saw in the example by Wei Feng, he does like red colors when the plane goes away from the light. It becomes more red because the blood is getting translucent here, but this is like the opposite effect a little bit, although it's like blue eye, but in here you see a touch of blue in here as well, in here. That's like the opposite if you think about it. Like, when the light goes down, it actually starts here and not ends, is the opposite situation. So because of that, for a certain distance, we'll look at just the skin lit up, but not the blood, because the blood is deeper, so it starts later. So before that, we get a paler edge of the shadow, contrary to a more saturated red edge of the Terminator. So that's how you get this colorful kind of skin rendering. And it's probably very barely noticeable in real life, maybe with very strong lighting, or, you know, if you really microscopically look at someone's face. But in a painting, you can really exaggerate it. And one important thing is that, as I said, if you keep the radius small and be careful with like only adding little drops of it, you can go with quite a lot of color exaggeration. So that's kind of generally the rule of thumb, the direction to go for. I know it's like there's a lot to learn there. You can look at Wei Feng's artwork to, you know, see a little bit how exactly it works and at which parts, because that's like the language of exaggeration to achieve that beauty render that's really mesmerizing and everything. So yeah, let's give it a little try. So I'll make it colder. Let's say the blood under the skin is like red or maybe like purple color, but the skin is more blue, and that's why generally we have this violet look, which is a good way to go about it, I feel. So this is the kind of thing we're gonna get then in terms of this effect. So the edge of the projected shadow will be a little bit blue. Look at that, it looks really cool. I remember I was playing around with that in one of my really old paintings before I started the channel. So yeah, this guy right here, this artwork, I went for a very non-human anatomy in here and everything, but I was really going for that alive kind of rendering of the face. And like not everywhere in here, I would definitely exaggerate that effect today. But right here, you can see a little bit of a blue glow going on there, and very red, tiny edge of that translucency on the lip. And yeah, generally you can see how the translucency is added a little bit, just little touches. That's how it works really well without making the whole face orange or something. That's the thing, you want to kind of keep the face pale while adding all these colorful things, and the key to that is the amount, the radius of it. So yeah, I guess something like this, only of course spending a few hours following all these rules would be like really good. I think it would lead to really good results with like high precision and understanding of how to balance all of this. Second patient is Lil Dagger Art. Welcome back, Lil Dagger Art. Hi Boro, hope you're doing well. So this is Lady Maria, a DLC boss from Bloodborne. Everyone is just illustrating characters from games. I guess it's a lot of fun because you can bring like more life to them and put them in a more of a complex situation than just in-game kind of situation. So that is a cool way to, you know, make the character of the world richer. When you walk into the boss arena, you're pretty much at the heart of the Astral clock tower, and she's sitting there like this. It's usually a fairly well-lit area, but I wanted to make it really dark, so I made her into a silhouette, but I feel like she's just drowned in all the shadows because of this. I know I didn't try to paint in details, and now that I look at it, I regret it. And also, I kinda suck at details and further rendering. It would be great if you could further go into it, add more details and fix the parts that are drowned out in the darkness and flat areas. And also, the background kind of sucks, but you don't gotta deal with that if you don't want to. Thanks and have fun! So this time around we have a bit of an opposite situation. We need to make more details and sort of, while having the high contrast base, introduce certain nuanced detailed lighting that would bring back all the details and avoid making the image too simple and just super dark. For that we need to decide on some of the rules that need to, you know, enrich the whole image here. So first of all, we have the light from the back. That's pretty straightforward, and I would say the chair would probably be casting a shadow here, so let's make it look the way it should. Not like super sharp, I did it really sharp, since like the light source is like big, kind of, but really like we can see all of it. It's not that it wouldn't be really reaching here all that much. So if anything, we can almost like focus on just this lighting this way. So I would just draw all the parts where we see that light, right? Maybe a touch in here on the hair, a hat as well. I'm not counting the brightness of the material or anything. We need to break things down into simpler tasks. Right now, I'm just creating like a mask for all of this lighting. So something like this. And now we need to come up with a rule how to bring anything else into the shot, because this is about it. For that, we should probably come up with like some kind of ambience in the room that's lighting up the whole thing. And I can see you did a pretty cool job on that with the face. It's lit up from the bottom, but you're not really following on that with the rest of the image. So that's where I would go much more confident on that and continue this kind of look everywhere. So I'm gonna add this other kind of mask. Let's make that light kind of warm. I'll probably use the soft brush. Since this is a much bigger radius light, it's probably reflected from the floor. I'm making it all of the same brightness to make things simpler, you know, we're just thinking about the mask right now. So is this soft light hitting from the bottom? So everything will be lit from the bottom now. And we can like not even think about that part, but I'm just gonna keep it around. Ever so slightly, some light may have reached that part of the hat. Okay, so something like this. And this is our look. Now it's a bit too harsh still. I'm gonna walk around it a little bit to fill in the lighting. It shouldn't be just, you know, in the details, it should be overall on the shapes. Because again, this is a reflected light from the room. It's really big and really soft. So yes, something like this. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and remove a lot of the stuff that is not supposed to be there, like the light that is not supposed to be there. So again, the point is, I come up with a rule. So the reflected light is gonna be from the bottom, since this is probably like a big, some kind of throne room. So the only thing that can be reflecting the sunlight or whatever, daylight, would be the floor, because the walls are a lot further away. And thanks to the fact that I have a clear direction of the lighting, I have now an easy base to work on the details. Now I'm gonna desaturate this light and use like overlay probably, or something like this. Yeah, color dodge looking good. It's not the point. You shouldn't be using color dodge, you should be painting right away. Or you can actually separate lights into layers like this and work on them separately, but actually using the colors of what you want to work on. So you paint the whole character from the back with this really bright rim light, and then you paint the same character again, but with the soft light from the front bottom direction. And now we can just work on balancing how we want things to be. One thing I know for sure, that I want the actual light source to be a lot brighter, because without that, all the details on the character make no sense. If we want to see the character well, it means the light source needs to be overexposed. Because like, think about it, we're trying to see the character that is only lit by the reflected light from the floor. That thing is always a lot darker than the actual light source. So the only way to go about it is to make sure that we give the viewer the hint about like what is important in the image. that part that is in the proper range of exposure. The character will be, but the background, it will be really overexposed. And why we need to do it, why we can't just, you know, show everything kind of the way you did, because then it just doesn't look like the real light, and it doesn't look like it's interesting at all. It's too dull, it's not real. That means it's not the reflected light anymore, there's just a lot of flat lighting in the room, you know? It all starts falling apart, so this is all of the same brightness. This rim lighting, it's barely going from the window, and again, if we check the dynamic range, it's kind of the same stuff, you know? This is where the image kind of should be. But again, if I do this, you can now see how everything is flat because of that. You were trying to make things darker by making the picture darker, when instead you should have decided what should stay bright. And that should have been the window. It should have been really, really bright like this. Then everything starts making a lot more sense, and you have an easy base to work on details, because all you have to do now is to erase the light on the edges of where it disappears and introduce some texture in that part. So I'm gonna add, let's go with another color dodge. It seems to be going pretty well. So I'm gonna go real, whoa, not that much. But yeah, kind of like, well, I don't know if golden light fits the situation, you know, Bloodborne is pretty grim. So yeah, maybe we want to go with like desaturated glow, not going too much. Yeah, I really feel like that wasn't looking dark enough for Bloodborne, so like maybe you would want to do that. I'm not against that or anything, but I'm trying to keep generally the situation of the original image, but in here we just need to have this overexposure. And when things are overexposed, all the, you know, aerial perspective gets really lit up a lot. Maybe tone down it a little bit. And yeah, just make sure that, you know, if it's facing up, but not facing the light source from the back, that's the perfect place to go into dark, like actual black. Like maybe not with the white colors, but with a lot of different things in here, like top of these arms. Top of these throne armrests, top of the knee. Yeah, this thing should go into the darkness over there. And generally like the throne behind the head could have a nice dark line there. This I would tone down a little bit, it's a bit of a too strong of a contrast here. Not sure what exactly is going on in there with the legs. This is like a knee, but where's the other one? I'm not 100%. Maybe we don't see the other one at all, but it seems to be something like this. And yeah, I think in this situation it's important to make sure that the face doesn't really like just glow comparing to everything else. There should be some mystery in that regard. This is a mysterious light setup after all, so we shouldn't be seeing everything. So yeah, that's the kind of setup I would go with. One thing I would also change is I would probably also increase the brightness of the air behind, like around the silhouette of the character, but you already had the right idea. I think you would have done it yourself as well if you would go for this higher contrast, high dynamic range kind of version. And yeah, at this point, details just come down to showing stuff at the bottom and exposing some nice wrinkles, bumps, and textures on the Terminator plane, mostly. That's the benefit of working with well-defined directional lighting, even when it's soft like this. It's really important. Like, all the problems go from, you know, the wrong decision in the beginning, usually. Like, when professionals paint, it always seems so easy. That's because they know the right decision to make in the beginning. I don't really know the details this kind of character would have or anything, but I assume it would be quite a lot of wrinkles from all this clothing. And yeah, all together with this image, I would think about, you know, toning down somehow, maybe like this. If we want to go a bit more mysterious, if we want to go more obvious like this and then paint over, you know. If you go brighter, you need to introduce more details then. If you go darker, it's usually only gonna look better. But I mean, if darker is the right way to go. So yeah, this is the changes we made here. Just simply going for physically accurate lighting with proper directions and proper differences in brightness. If we want to see the character in the shadow, we need to make the light really, really bright. Third patient is Mia. Hi, Mia. Howdy Boro, been a while since I posted, glad I made it in time before the next overpaint. Here's a painting made yesterday, it's Dolores from the Disney movie Encanto. Oh, I actually haven't seen it, and I kinda want it. I usually like CGI cartoons that involve humans. Not that I'm against animated animals, but there's just too much of those. And this looks like a lot of fun. I watched Soul. Good stuff. But yeah, this is looking really interesting and, well, the rendering is really cool. And so this is Dolores. I see. Fancy. She looks a lot younger in this picture. Like certain features are looking a lot more grown up in the cartoon. Let's read the rest. To be honest, I started painting the face and then the rest is an afterthought. Can you tell? No. I wouldn't be able to tell that. But yeah, the face is the most straight part, and the body kind of squished a little bit. Maybe because of that, since you put so much value into the face, it's just too big, and that's why she looks like a child. Her whole forearm is the side of her face. And this is what's supposed to be the size of your face. I gave up on the arms as I couldn't figure out how to paint them detailed but still dainty. I think my main issue with this is tightening up my strokes. I fall back to the messy approach when the going gets tough. So if you have tips on finishing a piece, I'd appreciate it. So yeah, I would definitely go with a bit bigger forearms. They're not, like, there's a little bit of exaggeration in the same direction I can see in the cartoon as well. The head is a bit bigger, so yeah, it's not all that, but this is like a child, like really a child. I see you're missing a really long, beautiful neck. It's really short in here. Also, I would add this choker thing. I should probably expand on the thing a little bit, maybe like this. So yeah, that's one thing I really want to do right now is fix the proportions, because we're really missing the character in regards of age. So yeah, I'm just trying to find spaces for all the body parts. Another thing is the point of the shoulder, the pointy part of the shoulder, the corner of the shoulder is under this shoulder part of the dress, and it shouldn't be like here, because that is not correct. So I'm gonna make sure the point of the shoulder is where it should be. So that's maybe where the problem started. You got small shoulders, and then that led to small arms and everything else. Let's add a little bit of a slimmer area here. Seems like it makes sense. And yeah, about the clean brushwork, something I talked about extensively in the first part of this Overpaint month is the shape design. So make sure to watch the first video, because I was talking a lot about that. But yeah, the gist is to have the clean shape when you are building the shapes without going loose. Don't go loose in regards of, you know, just making things like your vision is blurred. Go loose in regards of the shape is simple first, but define it with clear, simple planes. And then break into that shape and make more complex sub-shapes. And after you do that 3 or 4 times, you will end up with a stylized, clean, and detailed image. I would go with stronger black on the eyelids and everything, because it feels a bit fuzzy, like it's the face is not as important. Also, the hair is generally darker. I feel like we need to make the hair a bit darker. That's what I feel we should do to increase the likeness, look-alikeness. I keep looking at the reference because specifically the thing you, as you said, like you wanted to improve is cleaner shapes. So I need to see them in order to replace your vague shapes with something more defined. I'll go ahead and ignore the whole shadow from the arm first, because you really were trying, like working hard to keep it, and because of that, there's just so vague, and I guess it's actually normal. I was working hard to work around that shadow, and I should just go ahead and repaint that. I don't know, some kind of yellowy patterns. Yeah, the eyes are pretty much like black on that character. Like it has a nice glow in there, but overall they appear really black. I know I'm making a mistake, like this was your artistic choice in this regard, so I'm not saying it's an error, but I can see generally, oh right, this is me as artwork. I'm stepping into the same minefield again. It's your guys' thing, apparently, in a certain art style where everything is like really fuzzy on the face. I am not sure what that means. I just feel like some definition and contrast this character could really use. Also, I'm not sure about the direction of the lighting. I kind of went with something from the bottom left a little bit, but the top of the head kind of just vaguely goes with the lighting from the top, I feel. Maybe not, maybe it generally kind of went with it, but I feel like making it a bit more defined in that regard. And yeah, this is probably gonna be like a little rim lighting on this left rear side, so like this as well. Well, yeah, this is immediately gonna make it look really cool, I feel, if that's something you need. Okay, I guess something like this. It's kind of hard for me to comment on this one. It's really just about making clearer definition by going for clearer shapes, you know? I think about each cylinder of the finger, I define it. If it doesn't look like, as you said, it needs to look cute, like more rounded maybe? Although again, I was looking at the reference, like it's just woman's hands, you know? They look fine, like, well, kind of cute, sure. And by the way, I really like what you did with the hair at the top, like a little hint on it. You could have used like a bit of a more interesting brush for that, but it's definitely a cool way to, like, this is the stylized, simplified, cool looking hair. And by simply using like this texturized flat kind of brush, it can, you know, reach a bit of a different look, maybe a bit more detailed and dynamic thanks to this texture. Like when you work with small amount of brush strokes, when you want them to be like visible, that's a good time to introduce the brush with good looking separate brush strokes. So yeah, I guess this is it. Mostly I went for fixing the lighting and proportions, making the shapes cleaner, but yeah, that's pretty much the way you do it. You define them like a low poly, very low detail character from a game with small amount of sides, and then you block into it more and more. But each stage can be clean and sharp. Just define simpler shapes, but go clean about them. You can easily break them down into smaller ones in the next step. So don't worry about the fact that you are clearly defining something that's not what it's supposed to be. You'll get there. It's important to stay clean and define bigger ideas, like bigger planes, like front plane, side plane, and then define like smaller ideas, like a certain gradient and, you know, curves and everything. That way you'll be able to easily define everything you need. You can easily work with lighting this way. There's so many benefits to working with that clean shape design approach. Highly recommend watching the first part of this overpaint this month. I think it'll be awesome to see if you would use this kind of thinking in your artwork. I mean, to me, I think it would be cool to see what that would look like with a bit of a clearer definition. So yeah, hope that helps. This is the progress we have. The fourth and the final patient today is Rola den Koenig, Max. Welcome back, Max. Hello, Boro. Nice to see you again after some time. Am I still on schedule? You sure are, my friend. Anyways, I have an overpaint patient for you today. I recently got into Dragon's Dogma. Again, inspired by its beautiful designed world, I put this down. I am very happy about most of the picture, but there is still enough room for improvement. I would like to see a fresh take from you on it. Best regards, Max. That's a good setup. I want to have a look at Dragon's Dogma. Ah, yes, very interesting. Is this the creature from Black and White game? It has a very nice, like, soft and very natural color palette. You can probably spend, like, dozens of hours in it each time. Wow, this is really cool when I look at it, you know, not inside of a white website, but like, really? This is cool, like, this is a place. A really nice picture, I love it. Honestly, very hard to tell what I would like immediately fix, aside from, you know, actually painting it further into detailing. This is a problem, like I could keep on detailing it, but this is literally not the point. What can I fix? I mean, I guess even on this level of detail, I would go for not as defined edge of the foliage here. I'll just be doing little things that I think like should be done, and then see if I come up with more stuff as I go. Though I still feel like I'm just detailing now. It's really hard, like this is not the kind of artwork. I guess it's a bit too early. Maybe you were a bit too careful with it, like, and that's why you didn't really finish it. Like, I would say it's actually not finished because the character in here is super cleanly defined. Also, you probably shouldn't be able to see the shadow from them so clearly. And on the grass, it's like it sticks upwards, you can barely see the actual shadow in it. If anything, I would hide the foot a little bit, both feet. Like, you see, this is the character walking in the grass. And this is, well, definitely not on the grass. It's just like, this makes it a floor. So yeah, it's important. The shading is different because it's grass, it's always sticking upwards, and, you know, unless this is like perfectly flat lawn that's been taken care of to make it really short, it should be like somewhat taller, you know, to actually cover the feet or something. There we go. I don't like the shape design of these trees. Like, what's up with these lines? This is really annoying. I should have looked at it right away, like, design decisions. Of course, like, I was really impressed and I really enjoyed just the feeling of the picture. Like, this is not gonna improve the feeling of the picture. Maybe a little bit, actually. Since this is like shapes, they do affect whether you like what you're looking at or not. You know, there's nothing wrong with the trees that were here before, but they're the wrong painting of trees. I like how you decided to keep this in shadow, like it's kind of cool. So yeah, I guess I broke it down a little bit so it wouldn't have this very unpleasant line. And I feel like this is pretty distant over here, so it shouldn't be like that mountain shouldn't be shaped like trees, you know, bumpy kind of look. It should be a bit like more of a pattern of soil erosion or something like that, a little bit like this. I feel like this shape would fit much better with that scale. In here, it's cool to go bumpy lumpy like this. I would probably make the shadow a much sharper in here. It's actually really cool to do it, and maybe define a very tiny, clean hint on the texture of the skin. And yeah, the shape of the wings, I would make them a little bit like spreading like this. I assume it's like tilted forward a little bit, since we can see the shadow on the leg in here and not so much on the face. That means the thing is like backwards, so it's sort of, I don't know, maybe not, but since it's casting quite a wide shadow here, it's probably horizontal wing. And it is generally just looking a bit better, I feel, when you kind of flatten it a bit. Like overall, not go like this, but like go like this, you know, with this kind of, this looks cooler, like with the Batman sign. And I feel this way it looks a bit more like it's actually going at us. That wing, you know, is sort of really getting here. In this way it was kind of broken and just flat over there. And yeah, again, I would add a sharp shadow here as well. There's aerial perspective going on though. And finally, I also feel like going even stronger with your idea of, you know, bright sunlight in one spot, and then everything else is in the dark. We can probably increase this a little bit, or maybe not. So yeah, I guess that'll be it. Just working a little bit on the edge of the grounding here. You generally have very sharp brushwork sometimes. It's almost like it's cut out of cardboard. Like, you know, introduce certain mass or whatever to make things falling a bit more naturally into each other. And yeah, overall, just a few fixes in terms of like shape design decisions and making sunlight a bit sharper. I feel like it introduces a better presence of the character, like this dragon is really in that bright sunlight. And yeah, no flat shadows from the characters on the tall grass. So yeah, I guess that'll be it for today. Thank you guys for your submissions this time. Was really interesting working with the lighting this time, you know, thinking about how to make the compositions more striking by increasing their dynamic range, working on shapes and fixing some proportions to make the character look like the reference. And finally, some little tweaks on the shapes in overall really awesome looking, but not very detailed artwork. If any of you guys want me to overpaint your pictures like this, the link to my Patreon page is in the end of this video. You become my patron in the overpaint tier, submit the picture with a message, I read the message and overpaint the picture. But for now, this is it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! If this continues, this may as well be just an overpaint channel now.